according to your will, in your love. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Take out one of the Bibles if you'd like and open up to page 836. Just for your information, it's interesting because today is a Sunday on our calendar of Zacchaeus. And the gospel reading we heard this morning was for the Sunday of Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus always tells us that we're getting ready to get towards Lent. There are some pre-Lenten Sundays, and this is one of them. However, today is also on the Orthodox calendar the holy day of the three hierarchs, James the Great, George, and John Chrysostom. I wanted to speak about that for a moment because my homily is from the gospel for that. On one Orthodox website, the gospel for today was for the three hierarchs. On another Orthodox website, it was for the Zacchaeus. But let me tell you where this holy day of the three hierarchs came from. And before we get to that, every year, this past week on January 27th, is the holy day of the translation, the moving of the relics of St. John Chrysostom back to Constantinople. And every year, the same person calls me up and very kindly wishes me a happy name day. And every year I tell the same thing, that the actual name day for St. John Chrysostom is November the 13th. Totally St. John Chrysostom, not the relics. I'm not going to call on the son of the three hierarchs. But getting back to three hierarchs, where did this feast day come from? Well, it turns out that many, many years ago, I don't know the exact date, but they maybe 8th century, 7th, 10th century, whatever. In fact, it was 1100, I never remember. There was a real debate amongst the leading minds of the Orthodox Church of which of these were the greatest saint. Was it Basil the Great, who, of course, the liturgy that we celebrate during Lent on Saturday nights was written by St. Basil the Great? Was it Gregory the Theologian? The title theologian was very brilliant in theology. Or was it John Chrysostomos, which from the Greek means golden mouth? There was a debate going on. So this bishop had a dream, and in the dream, another bishop came and said, you need to do something to resolve this, because why? These three hierarchs, they were all bishops, have the same equal honor before the throne of Christ. So in order to end this constant who was greater, they did like an equal truth that wasn't theirs, but other people gave them. They instituted this feast day of the three hierarchs to show that singularly and collectively, they all received that blessing from Christ for the work that He enabled them to do here on earth. So in the Gospel of St. Matthew, which we prescribed for today, in the 5th chapter, 14th verse says, as if you are the light of the world, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. And if you go back and you look at history, you'll find that most of the cities, there were two characteristics, and I'm not going to say because you might not be thinking about it. There were two characteristics when they built cities years ago. One of them, very common, was they were built on the banks of a river. And why a river? Because you could transport easier on the water. If you know anything about Egypt, everything in Egypt centered around the Nile. None of that would flood, would fertilize the land, would water the land, but things could be moved on the Nile. London, the Thames, Paris, the Seine. Okay, even cities in America. New York City was on the Hudson River. So rivers were very important. The other one was that if they could, they built them on a hill. Because it was more difficult to conquer the city that was on the hill. You didn't build silly cities in a low valley, but you just kind of roll into them. So he says here that a city that is built on the hill cannot be hidden, because you will see that city. And you know, when I was coming down to church yesterday in Westminster, I was looking at the skyline of Orlando, thinking how much it has changed in the almost 50 years that I've been here. There are buildings now that weren't here before that are here. So it says here that a city on the hill cannot be hidden, that you are the light of the world. As an Orthodox Christian, you are all lights of your own world. How you live your life is a light of your own world. Question is, how bright is your light to others? Does it illuminate their path in life, their path to Christ and His church? Now, a house that's easy to get around in the dark is my home. I have little vigil lights all over the house. At night, I have vigil lights. I have timers. So that this time of night, these lights come on, and other times, other lights come on. And then when the house would be almost totally darkened, a little other light comes on. Now, Suzanne, when it's, and I want to tell you, I appreciate what Gabrielle told me this morning, that the air conditioning is really working well in the church today. I want you to remember how cold it is in here in July. In August, remember how cold it was here. You just keep the cold, you just kind of bottle it up and then let it out in the summertime. But Suzanne has a habit of tradition almost daily when the weather is nice of what? What do you do usually in the mornings when the weather is nice and warm?
Oh, do I say warm?
No, what's that?
Oh, just swim.
She goes swimming. She goes swimming every day that she could possibly go swimming. Now, Suzanne has, she lives in a very nice condo in Winter Park, and she has some neighbors. And sometimes you get into a conversation with your neighbors, right? You talk, and you talk about the Lord, you talk about the church. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of a light are you? Don't worry about me. Are you in the circumstances, the environment in which you find yourself? Or do you act darkly as the people around you may be acting? You know that I really thought, and I'm sure there are many people at my age or not too far from my age, who thought that smoking would probably end. In fact, some of the people in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, people thought, in fact, I give you a better example, King George of England, who had a very bad stutter, was told by his doctors, smoking will relax your vocal cords. And he smoked like a chimney, and he died of cancer. But the point is that people back then did not know, and they'll say, we didn't know, right? We didn't know cigarettes were so bad for us. So I would come back and say, oh, well, would you want to smoke if you knew? And they'll say, yeah. I say, well, look at a pack of cigarettes and look what they've written on it. But they got a skull and crossbones on it. It's like death coming right off the pack at you. And people still smoke. So you have to ask yourself, why do people smoke? And this homily is not necessarily about smoking, but this dovetails into it. It was considered cool. But even more so, your friends were smoking. So you smoked with them. Your friends, have you guys ever seen that? Teresa, have you ever seen something where, everybody was doing, whatever it might have been, where everybody was doing it and you didn't do it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to say what it was. No, my point is that takes strength. Because if everybody else is doing it, you want to be part of the pack. You want to be included. I will confess to you, I tried cigarettes once, I did. That was exactly what happened. I said, this is ridiculous. So I put the cigarette down, I never touched another cigarette. Didn't even really get into that one. Because so my point is that people will follow what other people are doing. People take a rally cry. They don't even know what they're rallying about, because that's what everybody else does. So if we do that, we haven't done anything good at all. But if you are in a situation where people are doing the wrong things, and you, first of all, you do not participate, and secondly, you have enough guts to stand up and say, why you're not participating? And I know that. When my friend was smoking, they said, don't you want to smoke? I said, no. They said, why? I tell them the story I just told you. They say, well, you'll probably eventually get over that choking coughing. I said, I don't want to get over the choking coughing. I want to, every time I think about it, I want to choke and cough on that stupid cigarette so that I never smoke a cigarette. That's why I never smoke cigarettes again. So, in our lives, are we a representative light of Christ to others that are around us? You have to ask yourself this, because Christ is going to ask you that. When you leave this world, the Lord is not going to ask you how much you left in your bank account, or how much you left to your friends, and your relatives, your family. He's not going to ask you what kind of job you had, how big your house was, whether you kept Jesus does not care about, Jesus does not care about most of the things that we do care about. We care about those things. He does not care about them. He cares about one thing. Did you bring yourself to know Him? And did you take advantage of the opportunity where He brought people into your lives to get to know Him as well? It goes on and says, in verse 15, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. So you have to ask yourself, is our Christ light dampened by our sins? Is it shaded? He says, when he said put on a lampstand, they're not talking about a lampstand with a shade. They're talking about that there's as much light given out that all around it is illuminated by the light. You don't put it under a basket. The basket we put the light of Christ under are the sins that we live in our lives. Yeah, better say, those sins shade the light. Those sins dampen its effect. So we have to get away with it, because if we don't, what happens is our worldly light is darkened. Now, Gabby, you're sitting here, you sit in front, you get asked a question. What would you think would be some of the things in people's lives that would darken or shade the light of Christ? Because all of us in this room will open it. What do you think might darken or dampen that light?
Well, if people think that you live in a glass house, but when you go out and go gambling or you go drinking out of control, or let's say things you shouldn't do, they see it, and they go, wait, he goes to church, but he does that.
Yeah, he goes to church. I wanted to start with a quick on this, but when I'm inspired by someone, I'm inspired by them. Your son inspires me. He inspires me. Gene's son Leonard, he has cancer, he has shingles, he had water around the heart, and he had coronavirus. And I would talk to him, he said, "You're looking all the way." Very positive, loving the Lord attitude. Go visit Lula Boyles in the hospital. She inspires me. Woman has such bad cancer, she's in such pain. So they're taking that light and they're making it brighter. It should inspire other people. When people meet us, if we are correctly praised, that's what we're orthodox, or in Greek, today it means correct, straight way. The straight way to God. Are we correctly praising God? If they meet you like Abigail said, okay, you go to church, first go to church, but then they're in the casino. I went to a casino once. I was in New Orleans. They have a casino in New Orleans. I walked through it quickly. People playing, and I have no interest in it. I have no interest because I feel that whatever money God gave me, I shouldn't waste it in gambling. I shouldn't. In fact, I did at one time play poker. They did when I was in college. You all know about poker, right? You play poker? You would want to play poker. Because as soon as I won a hand, I took the winnings and left them on the table, and what I had started with, I put in my pocket. And when I lost the winnings, I was done. And they would say, well, where are you going? I said, I'm done. They said, we can't make any money on you. I said, hello? I said, well, part of it. I don't gamble because I don't feel that I should take what God gave to me, and God did give it to me, and try and spend it getting more of what God gave to you. So when we tell people that I belong to the Orthodox Church, or if you don't belong to the church, it means you believe in Jesus Christ, and you do unchristian-like things, and you are darkening the light that Christ has made you into. We want to be lights. We want to be lights. And that is why, in fact, when we put these chandeliers in last year, we didn't need more light in this building. We had lots of light, but we put the lights there because we wanted to make it brighter. I remember my friend, I think it was Alice one time, he told me, he said, Father, this light is too bright. Did you jump out again? I said, well, you know, lower your eyes. You know, it's too light. I want it to be bright. That's one reason I love that with the Lord enabled us through your grace to finish these windows. Because with the, in fact, if you come across again and you see the church, your window on the left and the right shine right through to the street, strong more than the one in the center does. So we're called upon to be lights. And mine is in verse 16, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So the question is, does your daily routine glorify God? Does your daily routine, now I spoke to her about Suzanne, she'll see her neighbor, that's her daily routine, she talked about God. Vicki, you asked her, does your, I don't know what your daily routine is. Do you have any opportunity, if you haven't done it before, okay, do you have the opportunity in that daily routine to speak to someone, the goodness of the Lord, the goodness of the church?
Yes, I do.
So in your daily routine, you're doing that?
Yeah, I have a bunch of icons in my office, and I also have an annual calendar. And people come in all the time, oh, what's that? And so then I get a chance and I get to talk to them. And I have a team where I think Christ and the Theotokos, and I have particularly successful with certain series of tasks. So worry yourself and sound.
When you see the list?
When I have a particularly good day, I give thanks to God, my icons, and they'll sometimes someone will see me, and I'm not trying to do it for show, they'll just happen to be walking by in my office, and they'll see it as, why are you crossing yourself funny? And that gives me another opportunity to talk.
That crossing yourself is very important. Very, very important. I go to the gym, I cross myself. I've always crossed myself because my shoulder was hurt at the gym because I didn't exercise very The point is that I crossed myself. Now, many of you remember our dear friend, so to speak, Nick Ranciato. I met Nick at the gym by crossing myself. He said here at one time he was a typical Bronx, Italian, Sicilian, Roman Catholic, became Protestant, was all over the place. But anyhow, he said, what is that you're doing? I said, well, I do. He said, well, why did I do that? I said, I'm making the cross. He says, what? I said, because it says, don't do anything without calling upon the Lord first. I've told you this before. If people know any words or they're familiar with any word in Arabic, it's Yallah. And you ask even Arabic people, speaking people, what does Yallah mean? They say, let's go. But that is not what it means. It does not mean this. When you say Yallah, it's two words, Ya Allah, oh God. You don't move until you call upon God. So I said, I make my cross because I'm asking God to protect me. So let me ask, because we have younger people here today, how in your school environment, coming to you guys, be careful. How in your school environment could you be a light?
I have some Christian friends that sometimes I talk about God with. If not, there's a Christian club after school every Friday. If not, nothing else.
But there are people that are already Christians. So they believe. You go to a Christian club, they believe. Right? I mean, Mary, if you went to a Spanish club, what would you think it was all about? He's right there, be careful. Well, if you were in the Spanish club, what would you think you would be doing there? Learning Spanish. You don't go to the Spanish club and say, well, no, that's Italian. You need to speak Spanish. So, of course, I was going to come to you. For sure, when you graduate from high school and you go to college, you know, they tell us, and it's true, if you're going to lose a young person from the church, it's when they go to college. Especially if they go away to college. Because they're not around that environment anymore, and they start getting into whatever it might be. So, let's go to high school. So, in your high school environment, be enlightened to the other people at Lake Prayer, right?
By correcting and teaching people about the Orthodox Church. By correcting and teaching people about the Orthodox Church.
This takes us. Correcting and teaching. They don't want to know. I mean, oh, this is, oh, yeah, come on, Isaac, come on, come on, they're not. Okay? How, if you didn't have the opportunity to correct them and say something to them, is there any other way that you could witness, okay, for Christ and the church, especially if they're doing something wrong?
If they're doing something wrong, I can tell them the consequences of it, how it's going to affect them in their life, and talk about the church from there. Like that, there's also a Christian club in my school, and people ask me before, you know, what am I a part of? And I tell them eventually about it, and typically they don't know what it is. They don't know about the Orthodox Church. So it's definitely, it's better to teach people, especially at that young age, about it.
There's even a more simple, that's the word. But let's say you couldn't do that. Let's say you couldn't talk about it. You know, Mary, they still came with a cross at Disney, right? Okay, so Mary is not like you. You got icons. She can't even wear a cross at Disney. You know that? They don't, am I right? They don't allow any religious symbolism in Disney. God forbid we should let anybody think that there was anything real in this world except Disney World and the Magic Kingdom and all the other. But the point is, you could do that witness by not participating. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. May her soul rest in peace. I always picture, I know my mother so clearly. My mother was about 5'4", maybe 5'1", she had high heels on. And I can still remember my mother saying to my brother, "Don't smoke, it'll stunt your growth." Really, Mom? So I said to her one time, I said, "Mom, how do you tell me don't smoke when you're smoking?" Typical answer of a parent. Don't do as I do as I say. No. They don't do as we say, they do as you do. So if you yell, they will yell. If you drink too much, they will drink too much. If you are a violent person, they will violent. Most children of white beaters, or most white beaters, are the children of white beaters. Children learn by what you do. So we as Orthodox Christians have this wonderful opportunity to witness. Not everybody's listening. Next week, this past week, there's the whole section here and some over there. All these children of the Geneva School over, I think it's in Castleberry, or maybe it's in the park. They come every year. They come every year. And they were all sitting out here, and some of them sitting over there. And, you know, I mean, every year, the people that at least come back, some of them have come before because they're great. They stay in the same school, and they go through grades. And Novice Andrew was here, and I thought, what am I going to tell these kids? So, you know, the Lord gives me things, right? I said, how many of you children know how long has virtual reality been around? The kid said, just for you, his name was Connor. I said, Connor, how long has virtual reality been around? He said, oh, I don't know, 6, 7, 5 years. I said, try 1,700 years. I said, what? This is virtual reality. I said, why do we have all these beautiful icons here? It's virtual reality. To put you into the sense of the feeling that you're in the kingdom of God. Refer to you about this way before. I said, secondly, Connor, if you want to do virtual reality, what do you have to do? If you're going to do a virtual reality session, what would you have to do? No. Virtual reality is I am just perfect, but I really virtual reality to wear the things. Okay? So you gotta wear these So you have to wear these things. Here you don't have to wear anything. This is virtual reality. This got them thinking. We were then clued in to each other. This is how we cannot talk to people as much as I love, and I do love the Orthodox Church, I love its traditions, I love its teachings. But the fact is that a lot of things that we're talking about, people have no idea what we're talking about. They live in the 21st century, especially the younger people. They don't know what we're talking about. So we can talk to them all day long about the fathers and the saints and the theology and the spiritual. These are all beautiful, but they don't understand it. They don't know what you're talking about. That's why Philip, and a couple weeks will be reading this guy, why Philip tells Nathaniel, come and see. This is the real reality, not virtual reality. This is the real reality. There was no place in our immediate area, except maybe in other Orthodox churches. There is no other place where you're going to feel the reality of being in heaven except in the church. Now, you can have light contact. I have light contact over my house, okay? But I still have a sink. I still take the garbage out. So here is the reality. What you do with that reality, that is what God's going to question about. He's not going to ask you how much money you made, how much education you got. Somebody told me the other day that they want to go to school, and I didn't say this to them, but I thought maybe God doesn't want you to go to school. Maybe God wants you to do something else. God doesn't care if you go to school. Going to school is for your benefit. That's why you're going to go to church. It's going to give you more opportunity to do more. But what are you doing with it? Some young people we have lost from the church who became overeducated. When I say overeducated, because they were educated in things that were a source of truth that were not truth. How many people have you lost in our society? How many friends have you lost that because you didn't agree with them or you didn't think like they thought, they didn't want to talk to anymore? How tragic is this that we are separating ourselves even from family? I mean, the problem we have today, I'm sorry, but the problem we have today is that there's no discourse any longer. It's either my way or the highway. Either you believe what I believe or we're done. That's wrong. Tell me what you believe and give me the right and the respect to say, okay, it's not my thinking, but it's yours. I can do that. I can walk. I don't have to win every argument. So when we want to be a light unto the world, we first of all need to listen. And our people, especially the youth, even down to David and Jason, our youth have an opportunity to be a real light. We also have the opportunity to continue in the darkness. Amen.